Automation and AI isn't going to solve for that specifically. It supports the strategy, but it's not the problem solver. It's a tool. Our toolkit as HR professionals, just like many others, like skill assessments or applicant tracking systems or HRIS. It's a tool for us to build and support, but it's not the end all be all for everything.
They keep telling us that it's all over for HR. The age of AI is upon us, and that means HR should be prepared to be decimated. We reject that message. The future of HR won't be handed to us. Instead, it'll be defined by those ready to experiment, adopt, and adapt. Future Proof HR invites these builders to share what they're trying, how it's going, what they've learned, and what's next. We are committed to arming HR with the AI insights to not just survive, but to thrive. Hello and welcome to the Future Proof HR podcast, where we explore how forward-thinking HR leaders are preparing for disruption and redefining what it means to lead people in a changing world. I'm your host, Thomas Kunjappu, CEO of Cleary. Today's guest is Leah Pearson, Senior Director of Human Resources at First Onsite Property Restoration. Now, over the past 15 years, Leah has held multiple global leadership roles in HR, talent acquisition, and organizational development, pushing for innovation in an industry not typically known for speed. A self-described tech enthusiast with roots in sales, she brings a business-first mindset to modern HR. Leah is passionate about using automation and data to eliminate admin fatigue and future-proof the function. Leah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Thomas. I'm happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Because you've spent many years in HR, but you started your career in sales.
I did, yes. It has been quite the journey. I started in telecom sales where I would have to convert all of these people calling in with challenges with their phone or cell phone or internet. And I would then have to convert it over to this relationship, understand their needs, build that relationship, and convert it into sales in this fast paced environment, which I had never done before. And it really introduced me to how to build that relationship, to connect with people and understand their needs. I did that for a number of years, which was completely different for me. And then I moved into recruitment agency work. There was a downsizing with our telecom company, and I was looking for a position. And as many people do, they go to recruitment agencies. And the recruitment agency said, "We're interested in bringing you on directly. We're not going to look for sales roles for you. We're happy to have you do some sales for us as a recruitment agency." And so that just kind of opened up all of these opportunities. I didn't know about HR growing up. I didn't go to school for HR. So I had no idea working with people and culture and engagement was a profession until I started dabbling in the recruitment agency, and that just blew up everything. I moved into corporate HR where I was looking at both talent acquisition, employee engagement, leadership development, and especially culture across a number of industries, as you mentioned, property restoration, where I am now, as well as even post-secondary institutes, online media, and new construction as well. Quite a broad array of industries, but the function always being human resources. So I've been very, very lucky. And now I'm with First Onsite. I've been here for 10 years, and I've progressively moved into more senior roles, focusing again, whether it be on talent acquisition or engagement or culture, and linking them all to business outcomes. So it's been quite a journey so far.
That's amazing. So let's talk about today and how you approach AI a little bit. So is it an experiment? Is it strategic as an initiative corporate wide, or would you consider yourself more of a cautious monitor of what's going on?
I would think it's an opportunity, but also a cautious responsibility. There's so many opportunities, and the world is our oyster right now with AI. So we need to be open and experiment, but also ensuring the adoption is thoughtful and responsible. We can't just take something off the shelf, not knowing what the results are going to be or what we're trying to attain prior to diving in. So I think it can free up an organization, again, from repetitive administrative tasks. So we can spend more time with people in the HR function. But we also want to make sure it doesn't eliminate the human touch, right? Especially in our organization where our people support people in their time of need in disasters. So we need to take care of our people and make sure it doesn't feel too robotic, is how I'll position it.
So then in this amazing ecosystem or landscape full of opportunity that we're in right now, um, What uh what makes you give pause? Or you said you are cautiously monitoring some of the advancements, right?
Absolutely. Because it's moving so quickly and there's new advances every day, whether it be compliance or privacy or personal information. We just need to go in with our eyes open and understand what we're using it for. And it's not a catch all, not going to fix your entire organization for everything, right? If you have a targeted goal and you want, increase engagement, look at opportunities or AI models to focus on that piece of it and solve that problem. But it's not going to engage your whole organization. It's not going to change the culture overnight.
Mm.
So I think it's just if you are diligent in knowing what you're trying to attain that aligns with the business and not just a free for all. Oh, let's implement AI and hope for the best. That's not a responsible way of approaching it. So I'm cautious, but targeted in our approach.
So I've seen the other extreme as well, Leah, like where organizations are looking at the cautious side of it, saying, "Hey, things are changing and moving so fast," and you are almost like pausing and not taking any action. Where do you think amongst your peers, or as you're out there talking to kind of getting your pulse on what's going on? Where do you think we are at, as an HR function in enabling AI, both for our function as well as for the organization?
I think it's a mix. I think organizations have so many options that at times it can be too many options to disseminate what to use or what not. But on the other side, a lot of organizations are adopting these and looking for kind of the one size fits all. There's organizations and companies that are trying to do LMS and ATS and all of these kind of functions and bundle them into one for kind of a one stop shop. And that works for some organizations, but that can also but there could be overlap, right? If not everything interacts, then it could be creating more, what is the word? Complexity. It could be creating more complexity versus easing some of those burdens that you hope AI is going to ease.
Interesting. So let me ask you about then the industry itself. So there's, and maybe you can describe a little bit more about what you do, as I think it's pretty interesting actually about natural disasters and severe weather, like how you're like responding and being very responsive as an organization. Challenging work for your employees, I think it's fair to say. What is, if you zoom out, like what is it that you see as your role and your function given the function of your employees?
I think we're a facilitator. I think we're responsible for taking care of our employees and making sure they can do the hard work supporting our communities. So we're in the background, right? We're helping them get out there and support the clients, but we're not client facing. So we have to take care of our people in those demanding times, right? We need to make sure that we have enough people supporting the community. We have enough skills and training to make sure that our people can do the work appropriately, whether again, they deal with asbestos, they deal with all kinds of situations. But our job is to create that opportunity so they can do the work for those communities. We're not at the forefront. We create the strategy in the background, but we're responsible for easing and making them be able to do the hard work on site, but when they're on a disaster site, even like Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Irma, Harvey, we are in all of those situations and it's very, very challenging. So we have to make sure that the staffing is appropriate. We have to make sure that their health is taken care of, both their mental and physical health as well. So we're the facilitators and we're responsible for ensuring that they have what they need to do their best work.
Yeah, so could you just describe a little bit more in detail for folks out there, just like what the organization does? Because I think most listeners tend to have a lot of HR practitioners. They probably know generally what you're doing, but it's really interesting to know the lives of your employees and your customers because it's pretty unique, I think, here.
It is, absolutely. So we are in the disaster restoration industry rather. So we support communities in their time of crisis. So if there's a hurricane, if there's flooding, if there's any kind of weather event, whether it be commercial, residential, a hotel, a stadium, anything that is affected by weather, our teams come in and literally restore the properties back to their original state. So if you have a flooded basement, for example, hopefully you've never had a flooded basement, but if you've had a flooded basement, it is quite a traumatic event where your home or business is impacted by this weather and you feel pretty helpless, right? It's a time of crisis. It's very stressful. It can impact your home, your health, your family, and your career, frankly. If we don't get those either residences or commercial buildings and restored quickly, it's very stressful for our clients. So we're across Canada. We have over 100 locations, about 2,500 people in the organization, and we cover every kind of natural event, whether it be again an insurance claim or let's say a chain of hotels has come crumbling down from an earthquake. We are going there and restoring those buildings back to their original state. So it's pretty phenomenal that we can go in and support communities that way. It's stressful work. It's rewarding work. The people that come and work for us want to take care of others. That's their driving force. So they want to take care of others and we want to take care of them.
So if I'm piecing together a little bit of the employee experience, then you have a lot of flexibility potentially in terms of like when or how you're working, where you're working. There's a lot of people on pager duty, effectively, depending on.
We do have people on call, absolutely, but we have the regular work, right? We are weather dependent, but there's always the day-to-day events. So they're not always Katrinas or Harveys or Irmas. Those are the major catastrophes that we go in and support. But again, if there was a fire in a mall or if your strip
Right.
mall had some vandalism, we're going in and helping in those situations as well. So there's a consistent stream of work that we're supporting,
Got it.
plus these kind of bursts of major weather events, I would say.
Got it. And then a lot of folks are out in the field with different specialties. There's going to be potentially accreditation. There's recruitment complexities associated with the specific geos that you're getting into. I'm imagining there's a lot going on the HR side, right, on your
Yeah.
shoulders as you're trying to support this
Definitely.
whole operation kind of run. With that context, how, if at all, are you thinking about upskilling or reskilling for this kind of workforce in this AI era?
Absolutely. So we're looking at our internal resources as well as external resources. So when we have someone identifying gaps or inefficiencies, those people are the change makers, right? Change is hard. Change is very hard for any organization and for any person in particular. But when we see people kind of raising their hand and seeing that there's opportunities to make things more efficient, then we're tapping on those people on the shoulders and giving them the opportunities and having actual real life project work. So we're sending them for training, of course, but actually hands-on understanding kind of the intricacies of the business and how we operate. They're by far the most critical piece in advancing our organization in using AI because they know our business, they know our people, they know our processes. So our internal staff are driving so many initiatives that propel us forward into this that we're having support from external facilitate or implement some of these solutions, but it's being driven internally by our subject matter authorities, so to speak.
And it sounds like it's been happening bottom up, right, culturally. So it's
Absolutely.
across various functions and across the board. So, what do you think is the role of like HR or like from an L&D perspective? Have you shifted any of your thinking in like the reskilling kind of world?
We've used LMSs, we've used AI simulations also in our training. We've used automation for licensing renewals, for example, and ensuring that we're compliant,
Mm.
whether it be again criminal record checks or background checks or accreditation or outside organizations that provide training like IICRC. So our people have training accreditations just like any industry would, but we're using different platforms to make sure that they're staying up to date and that we're kind of ahead of the curve when disasters strike so that we don't have to be scrambling and trying to figure out who has what training or accreditation. We have tools in place to prepare us and monitor and notify us of potential gaps in our workforce.
Okay, thank you for that context on the employee base as well. So then let's go back into what you've been doing in your function of it. Let's get a little bit more practical. So, what are some lessons that you've learned from trying out some AI solutions? What's worked, what hasn't? Any emergent advice?
Sure. So we've tried a number of different platforms. So the first one that we look at, we're on an MS Office suite. So I know some people love Google. Google's fantastic. We use MS Office suite, and there's just so many functions. So we're using things like Power Automate, for example, to eliminate repetitive tasks, automate approvals, for example. So we don't have to have paper-based timesheets. We don't have to have paper-based request to hire, for example. We can automate all of that, and it just moves through the process. Everyone's informed. Everyone can sign off on it. Everyone has the information that's critical to make the decision. which frees up HR teams to be more engaged with our employees, right? We have more time to speak to our employees, support our employees, and we're not buried under paperwork as HR once was, right? We do find that it doesn't necessarily eliminate the larger challenges. Where we need to make a conscious effort on focusing on culture and how we build that culture. Automation and AI isn't going to solve for that specifically. It supports the strategy, but it's not the problem solver. So I think that's a significant difference. It's a tool. Our toolkit as HR professionals, just like many others, like skill assessments or applicant tracking systems
Mhm.
or HRIS. It's a tool for us to build and support, but it's not the end all be all for everything. So I think just understanding that and using it as a tool appropriately has been quite successful, but also not just adopting things because it's a new, bright, shiny tool that looks like it would solve for everything and hope that it'll eliminate all of the different systems. That's just not the case.
Let's take that thought further because that's an important one. How do you go from, let's say you want to dig in, you want to work on a project. How do you think about which project to prioritize and work on, and then eventually matching that problem to a potential tool? So, what's like the framework that you think about so that you actually go in a specific direction?
Sure. So there's kind of three criteria that we always want to look at when examining a project or a tool, right? Does it solve a real business problem that our leaders are facing? Number one, can we measure its impact, whether financial or operationally? And will it scale across branches, not just,
Mm,
corporate office, because we have everyone in the field, right? We have field workers. So we bring in the operations into the discussion immediately to go through those areas and understand, does it make sense for our business? So IT, where HR and IT are like this, finance to create solutions and ensuring that we're on budget. And it's not HR building a solution in isolation. It's really working with all of the different business functions to ensure that we're supporting the initiative. For example, we are currently going through a job architect project right now.
mm,
The challenge for the business was we weren't necessarily being consistent in all of the staff skills and qualifications and delivery of work across the organization. That was the issue. And so we worked with the business to create that consistency, create a framework on rolling out to all the branches so that if you have a restoration tech, whether it be in Alberta or Halifax, you name it, you're getting the same work, you have the same qualifications, you have the same quality, and you can move people, right, to
mhm.
support. So we're taking the problems from the business and we're trying to find solutions with them. It's not independent of them. That's how we approach our projects. And it's been quite successful, right? If that's shared ownership, then there's more adoption, there's more buy-in, and it's supported versus it's not an HR project. That just makes me cringe. An HR project. There should be no such thing as an HR project. It should be a business project.
This has been a fantastic conversation so far. If you haven't already done so, make sure to join our community. We're building a network of the most forward thinking HR and people operations professionals who are defining the future. I will personally be sharing news and ideas around how we can all thrive in the age of AI. You can find it at gocleary.com/Cleary-community. Now back to the show. So, can you go a little bit deeper on this example then? Because it sounds like an HR project to me, but we've got buy-in, yeah, arguably amongst like maybe VPs who've been frustrated in the past because of misaligned job architectures and not getting, I don't know, appropriate staffing or
Yeah.
recruitment at the right moments. So there's a problem statement there. But then how do you go practically with your team and with these other teams to then make it not an HR project?
So we ask for their input on what they're trying to achieve, right? So from safety perspective, for example, what are the standard safety practices or environments that we want for each role to have experience in, right? Is it first aid? Is it IICRC? Is it asbestos abatement? Is it water damage control in those areas? And we gather kind of that information from all the different functional areas, right? Is it business acumen? Finance has a number of areas where people need to budget and
Mm,
understanding how that budget impacts the rest of the organization. So we're asking their input. What do they need for, let's say, a restoration tech to understand to support that as well? So each group, whether it be IT or safety or finance or operations, has contributed to these job descriptions and this framework to ensure that it's supporting the whole business, not just in title or not just what works for one individual team. So it's involving them throughout the entire process and ensuring that they're receiving and contributing to the project, and it's not HR might be driving it and supporting it, but we're not the end users. So we want the rest of the business to be contributing to that. So it's not an HR project.
Got it. Yeah. So that helps build the buy-in, right? And helps you like
Absolutely.
later on when you're actually going live with it. That kind of reminds me of something you mentioned a little bit earlier about how with these projects, I think you said you want to know the business impact, you want to be able to understand what the ROI is, so that you can measure it, and then that it kind of scales more broadly for the organization. And then I think you mentioned you want to ensure that these AI projects, which actually I'm not sure if this one is an AI project or not. Maybe there's components to it for job architecture that you could help with, but really it's like process oriented. But then for AI projects, really about efficiency and gains for the HR team. There are two types of projects. It's one mental model that I have for like AI projects. One could be you have a current process and there's steps A through Z, and then AI is taking over steps M and OP in the middle
Right.
and making it more efficient. But the
Right.
A and the Z, the inputs and the outputs are the same, and it's just the time is shrunk a little bit, right? And there's another type of project where a process where it goes A to Z, but then AI is actually impacting like the second half all the way to Z, right? So the
Mm.
outcome and what the end user or the customer sees
Right.
is a bit different. And I think I'm hearing you argue that you want to focus on the first type a little bit.
Correct.
So, I think earlier, Leah, you mentioned there's a lot of opportunities for leveraging AI as a tool to bring it to make your HR processes more efficient. And
Right.
so, I think there are broadly two types of projects with that mindset you could think of.
Yeah.
One's where AI impacts the middle, but the end and the outcome is still the same and is people driven and oriented. And others where the outcome is now being delivered by AI. Do you think of that kind of split and really focus your efforts on that first type of project where the outcome is still very much HR human delivered?
I do. I think that's the approach that our business lends itself to because it is personal in nature, just the type of business that we're in. So
Mm.
I don't think it's going to solve for all, but I agree it's going to kind of create that efficiency and alleviate a lot of the administration work. Even in this project, looking at how do I incorporate all of these elements from the different departments, you plug that into AI and it delivers this beautiful concise job, right? Like a job description and breakdown of kind of all the competencies and all of the requirements and all of the qualifications. But then you take that and you work with the business to validate it. You're right. It's that in between area where it can improve things and it can streamline things, but it's not the whole process. It's not the process at this point.
Mm.
There are other projects where you plug things into Power BI, for example, and it can spit out and estimate turnover based on previous turnover or workforce planning based on previous workforce planning on events. But that's more kind of at scale, and we're just starting to dabble in that area. But we're primarily looking at the Project A model at the moment.
Got it. And then I wanted to come back way back to something you mentioned up front. I think a core reason why folks pause in HR about leveraging AI, which is it's about governance, PII, and ensuring that there is, you know, there are no data leaks and that you're comfortable with the specific architecture, tooling, and processes, right? How do you think about that? Like with you have several projects and initiatives going on. How do you feel comfortable and confident, right, that you're approaching the project the right way?
So I think going back to the business, working with IT, for example, and looking how a company is using data or privacy or what information, especially cross border, because we're in Canada and US, using their expertise and understanding kind of even where our data is housed. Is it on the cloud or is it on a server or is it open APIs? Open APIs is a thing, but not a thing. Just understanding how that information is transferred and relying on groups like IT or again, finance and making sure that there's no financial risk to us by inputting too much information and having that leaked out to the public. So I think there's checkpoints where you have to work with your internal departments and their expertise so that you can ensure that the information that you're putting in is not being leaked out, even employee information, employee birth dates, employee addresses, all that kind of personal private information or employee files. isn't going to be available at the broader scale, whether it should be your organization or outside the organization. So there's checkpoints and kind of balance and checks with all of the other groups to make sure that whatever we're implementing, it checks all of those boxes and we're doing it responsibly and considering all of the risks versus the rewards.
So let's talk about the future of the function a little bit then. I guess one model I think you mentioned is that, well, AI can help make a lot of tasks that are repetitive and that maybe you shouldn't be working on, ideally over and over again, can make that disappear. And hopefully what that buys is time. So if that's the case, then what are the kinds of things, the activities, the skills that will be demanded more of from HR and which ones will be demanded less?
So I think over the next 3 to 5 years, we're looking, a number of skills that need to be developed, right? So we need to be adept at tech. We can't have people pushing paper and just it's not that environment, right? So understanding their tech capabilities, understanding what the business needs and having them one with the business versus against the business. We need to shift in HR to make sure we're fluent in that. So understanding the business outcomes, understanding kind of the data and the technology that can support those business outcomes, not just compliance as policy or making sure that people sign their handbook. That's the easy part, but understanding what else it can do for the business. And I think HR is going to be developing those stronger skills in workforce analytics and change management, even workforce planning, so that we can advise the leaders proactively and not kind of be in a more reactive state. So likely kind of a leaner group, I would say, less cumbersome, less administration, but more able to support the business in those areas because we have the broad range of tools to help them through these changes in the organization. I think that's the direction that HR would take the next several years.
You mentioned specifically analytics being more,
Mhm.
I think both more tech savvy and business savvy, right?
Correct.
Can you it seems that'd be amazing. It's really tough to find both of these things in one person. Yeah. Do you think the titles are going to be shifting in any kind of way in response to this, or how do you see that? Is it like I'm imagining like an HRBP type of kind of structure, which would be, and are those folks also going to be tech savvy? The title business partner,
Mhm.
the ideas that you're
Right.
understanding and aligned with the business. How do you think that might evolve?
So I think we're halfway there. So we have HR business partners. Those are our key people within our business. So for every area, there are points of contact for the business, whether it be advising on best practice or avoiding risk mitigation in a legal scenario. They are that person. And we can't expect one person to do it all. I think the HR function can do it all
Right.
to support the business, but the HRBP is that kind of point of contact for strategy for the different regions and a resource for the people. And they're not burdened by administration. They're not doing the automation. They're not in the process. They're contributing to the solutions when we're creating these projects. They're the forefront. They're the people facing individuals that are critical and that won't change. Like those people need to be there and available for the business and the employees to support them. All of kind of the other leaner, more back end of the house pieces, they should have awareness and contribute to, but they can't do it all. So I think there's groups of people within HR that need to be able to do different specialties, but
Mhm.
one person or one role, I don't think it's reasonable to expect them to do everything. Have awareness and be curious about it and contribute, but not do everything.
So, so with that future 3 to 5 years out, where you have an HR team that's more tech savvy and more business savvy and a bit leaner, how are you investing and thinking about investing in your team right now so that you're uh, uh, reskilling or upskilling in that direction?
So we're giving them training, right? So we're giving them training both in workforce analytics. We're providing training on change management. We're giving them real life projects to work on to support change because again, in our industry as well as in the broader HR, change is constant. So we're giving them real life opportunities and they're doing it as we go. HR, I don't think has the flexibility to just pause and learn and become experts in a number of skills. I think we have to kind of learn as we go and so, whether it be courses or seminars or certifications in these areas of change management or culture building, or again, analytics, data analytics, they're taking it and applying it as we go. So, I think that's the key. being nimble and making sure that we're supporting the business where they are now. Advice for future would be curious, be flexible, be working with the business, not independent of the business, and understand their goals and needs so that we can make sure that we're creating that strategy and supporting all of those goals in tandem with them, not in isolation. That would be my biggest advice.
I see that as a theme because we've talked about being business focused and not push the not have a ever have an HR project, make it it's an initiative in partnership with somebody that there is also the stakeholder with you. As you look ahead over the coming months and quarters, what are the projects that you're working on that you're just very passionate about that you feel are going to make an impact?
There's a number of areas, right? There's the future, the succession planning piece, and tying that into performance. I think there's lots of opportunity there. We obviously, many organizations do performance management as we do, but there's such opportunity to kind of elevate that and see as a broader organization, how can we move people and skills and increase their qualifications to meet the needs of the growing business, not just in their own area, but across the organization. I think there's great opportunity there to leverage both internal resources as well as AI potentially to do some of that forecasting for us. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity. Also, skills assessments. I think there's opportunity there because there's only so much you can tell from interviewing someone, but really identifying and breaking down and understanding their qualifications and assessing their skills in real life. I think that will be a huge game changer. So we're not just hiring people based on their ability to interview. I don't think that's a great indicator, as most people know. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for HR to support, and AI will be supporting and in partnership as critical tool that we can use. So I'm very hopeful, and I think it's a really exciting time to be in human resources and supporting our people.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask one other very tactical question. I'm wondering what comes to mind, right? So if you could wave a magic wand and have AI, is that magic wand, right? Take away some of the things that are burdensome and are taking up the time for you and the function at large. What are the things that immediately pop into your mind?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I think as an organization at large, expenses are always a pain point for every person, even myself. It's just a painful process where you kind of have to input. So if automation can figure out how to alleviate that or figure out how to streamline timesheets more, we do have an app that kind of manages all of our timesheets, but something that's smarter than that kind of can do that correlation. And there's less manual tracking. I think that's the key. Less manual tracking, because that is what weighs our teams down and it's not a good use of their time. So as an organization, as an industry, if we can eliminate that piece, I think that's a game changer.
Yeah, and to your point, it's both for the employees and managers as well as like HR, right? The combined effort that you're putting into tracking all these things. Thank you so much, Leah, for this conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground around how you're thinking about, the future, both for the HR function that you're leading, as well as the broader organization and the relationship there, and how it's important to be both business and tech savvy and try not to have any HR projects. A big takeaway. Not to say don't do anything. It's just that everything needs to be done in partnership with stakeholders and
Correct.
have them alongside with you. And the most impactful projects are because ideally there's other executives around the round table who are right there with you who care about this as much as you do. And
Absolutely.
there's an interesting nugget in there about how if you view AI from it's both for lowering risk, but also as this way to get started is to think about it, inserting it into the middle of your steps, right? And so it's actually getting you to be more efficient, but not necessarily taking over wide swaths of
Right.
what you're already doing, especially in something that is very people focused and personalized. Um,
I love
so uh, that and many other takeaways. Thank you again for this conversation and for everyone out there who's following along. Good luck as you future proof your organizations and your functions as well. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Future Proof HR. If you like the discussion, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on the platform you're listening to or watching us on. Or share this with a friend or colleague who may find value in the message. See you next time as we keep our pulse on how we can all thrive in the age of AI. Hey, it's Thomas again. One quick question before you go. Are you and your HR team tired of answering the same employee questions again and again in Slack? If yes, our Cleary AI powered Slack bot is here to help. It takes routine employee requests and answers it automatically while freeing up time for you to take on more important tasks. At the same time, it automatically builds up an HR knowledge base as you go. It's quick to set up, works right in Slack, and you can try it for free. Just head on over to gocleary.com/HR-chatbot to install it. It's again, gocleary.com/HR-chatbot. Thanks again.